So welcome everyone to the Westpac Uncommon Minds Graduate and Internship Seminar. I'm really excited to hear what our panellists have in store for us today. My name's Alex Tyrrell. I am the host from Grad Connection. I'm your go-to person for any technology issues that you might be having, and Natalie will be our host today. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started, and actually less housekeeping, and I'd just like to take this moment in the spirit of reconciliation to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country of Australia and the connections to the land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. So some house rules. Basically, we'd love to hear from you. We have had a lot of questions that have been submitted ahead of time. We will do our absolute best to get through as many of them as possible. If you do have questions throughout the session, we'd love it if you could put them in the Q&A section. And then if you see a question that speaks to you as well, you can actually start voting that question to the top. So you just click next to it and it'll vote that up to the top. We are a little light on the ground today, so if we do miss your question, we will have a download of them at the end of the session and try and get to those later on. You should all have my email address as well, so if there's anything absolutely pressing that you need to get to, please send it through to me at the end. There will be some time at the end for questions as well, and that will be at the stage that we'll bring those up. So I won't take up any more of your time with the boring housekeeping pieces, and I'm going to pass on to Natalie Gibbons, who's going to be your host today. Thanks, Nat.
Thanks, Alex, and thank you to Grad Connection for having us. It's a great privilege to kick off our virtual marketing season for our grad and intern programs, and who better to do it with Grad Connection? So thanks, guys. Well, good afternoon, everyone on the call. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know it's 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'm sure everyone would be doing, much rather be doing something else, like watching Netflix or something whilst in lockdown, but thank you so much. It's great to have you with us. So as Alex said, I'm Nat, so I'm the Grad Programs Manager here at Westpac Group, and today I'm joined by our lovely 3 grads from our current campaign for Uncommon Minds. So you may or may not have seen the new imagery that has launched recently on the Grad Connection website, and it features the lovely Mel, Sahan and Grace. All 3 guys are current 2021 grads, and as I say, form part of our For Uncommon Minds campaign. So before we hear from them and we kick off with our grad panel, I just wanted to, provide a bit of context in terms of why Westpac Group have decided to go with the tagline For Uncommon Minds. I'm sure probably some of you have seen it floating around for a while and you're thinking, oh yeah, it makes sense, but why For Uncommon Minds? So I guess from our perspective, when we were looking at our grad and intern programs, I guess one thing that we are so proud of year on year and that we want to celebrate is the diverse backgrounds that our grads and interns bring to the organization. An organisation such as Westpac Group, we need diversity of thought. We encourage diversity of thought. And by bringing in these diverse skill sets and backgrounds from our emerging talent pipelines, i.e. our grads and interns, this is then in turn shaping the future of Westpac Group and in turn shaping our future leaders. So I myself, being the Grad Programs Manager, I'm a huge advocate for diversity of thought and talent. I myself being an arts background, and yet I'm working in a finance organisation. Never would I have thought that would be the case, but there we go. So I guess the For Uncommon Minds piece came around from that. We actually assessed our grad and intern pools and really looked at the diverse skill sets and degree backgrounds, of which there are countless. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Obviously, our 3 here are just examples of the different skill sets that we bring. But in previous cohorts, we've welcomed nanoscientists, marine biologists, diagnostic radiographers, to name a few. And that just speaks again to our organization, how forward-thinking and innovative we are, and how welcoming we are to those degree skill sets and backgrounds. So I'm really proud to be part of a program that supports that, and we continue to do so in our current campaign. Therefore, we are calling all Uncommon Minds to join us for a grad or intern program. So without further ado, I would love to now hand over for some introductions to our lovely panelists. So Mel, I might start with you. Would you mind just introducing yourself to everyone? Tell them a little bit about you in terms of degree background, uni, and what you do at Westpac.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Mel. I studied, it's a bit of a mouthful, I studied a Bachelor of Science in IT and a Bachelor of Creative Intelligence and Innovation at UTS. And I'm in Group Tech at Westpac. I'm a Group Tech grad, and my role at the moment is in an Agile transformation team. So basically what that is, if anyone here is in IT or studying IT, you probably have heard the word Agile thrown around. What we're trying to do is transform the entire technology sector of the bank to be Agile, and there are about 850 to 900 teams, so it's a big feat. And that's my first rotation at the moment. So that's what I'm up to.
Amazing. Thanks, Mel. And before I move on, obviously in keeping with the Uncommon Minds theme, you obviously were chosen as one of our hero images. Could you tell us something unique about yourself which makes you have an uncommon mind?
Yeah, sure. So one thing I do love, which is kind of contradictory as a technology person, I guess stereotypically, is I do love the arts. I'm a big creative arts fan. I love painting. I have a poster from the MoMA behind me. Yeah, and I think that tied into my innovation degree really nicely, because it was very much about abstract ways of thinking and innovative thinking and growth mindsets. So yeah, that's a bit about my uncommon mind.
Amazing. And it's definitely a stereotype to be broken that not everyone in technology just loves coding and programming. They have other interests outside, right? And you're a great example of that. So thanks, Mel. Nice to welcome you. If I move to Sahan next, Sahan, do you want to tell us a bit about you, what you studied, where you went to uni, and what you're doing with us at Westpac?
Hey everyone. So yeah, my name's Zahan. I did postgrad actuarial science last year, and that was very rewarding because I ended up in Westpac, but it was very tough. The reason I did it, I just wanted to get a bit better at maths and stats and quantifying risk. So as it goes, I applied for the risk grad program, and fortunately, I got accepted. Yeah, so what I do at Westpac is I'm in my second rotation, which is in consumer finance, retail credit risk, bit of a mouthful too. At the moment, I've just been undergoing a project to make sure the model which is used is performing as expected. So it's a lot of analytics, which is something, it's not exactly something I studied in uni. So when I went to apply it at work, I was just, before I started, I was like, oh my God, like I don't know any of these program softwares. I was like, oh, how do I do this? And I started emailing my manager for my next rotation before I started. And he was really nice. Like everyone is really nice. But he got back to me and he's like, you learn on the job. So it's very comforting. But yeah, it's a lot of analytics and analysis. Which is good.
As is the risk space, right? So
yeah, definitely. You have to look at problems and you don't know the answer. So you have to try and, you look at different ways of solving it and what are the consequences of doing that, I guess, which is, it's important to think creatively.
Part of the job. Amazing.
Definitely.
And Sahan, in terms of your uncommon mind then, so tell us a little bit about that and why you were chosen for the campaign.
My uncommon mind. I'm like, where do I start? No. So one thing that I think really defines me is I'm a big, I like to ask questions, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is it, but why? And I'm a very but why person. So I question everything and I try to understand what is going on, because I feel like that's the best way to contribute. If you know exactly how something works, you know how it can be improved, which is a good mindset to have, and something that everyone appreciates, because as grads, they do look at you for new ideas and a refreshed way of thinking, and how can you improve what's there.
Exactly. A really good point, Sahan, that you've raised. The fact that we look to our grads to tell us how to do things better, how we can simplify things, how we can fix things, how we can revolutionize things. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Thank you. And nice to have you with us today. And last but not least, the lovely Grace. Grace, can I get you to do a bit of an intro and tell us a bit about you and your degree and where you went to uni and what you do for us at Westpac?
Hi everyone, my name is Grace and I am in the CIB, Corporate and Institutional Banking graduate stream. A little bit about myself. I studied a Bachelor of Commerce International at UNSW, majoring in Finance and International Business. And part of that degree, I actually got to go on exchange for a whole year to the US. And during my time there, I actually studied a lot in Asian studies and also American African studies. And those credits actually rolled over into my UNSW degree. A little bit about my uncommon mind. I'm a bit of an arts and humanities geek as well. I think with the minor in Asian studies, it has kind of helped balance my degree a little bit, and has allowed me to kind of develop my writing skills and understand society as a large, not only just the languages, but also the cultures and the people behind it, which I think is super important. And it really helps, develop a diverse mindset.
Definitely. And again, to cut you off, sorry, but again, the fact that our institutional bank, a huge part of our grad and intern program, again, someone who's interested in arts and humanities, who would have thought, like, someone in an institutional bank who has an interest in that, and again, breaking that stereotype. And I wanted to touch on this, Grace. Obviously, you were a summer intern as well before you were a grad. We'll obviously get into a bit more of that later. But in terms of CIB, I know a lot of people out there think, CIB, like what does that stand for? What is that? Can you almost in a bit of layman's terms give us a bit of a description of what CIB is and what even the institutional bank does? Because I know this is a question that comes up all the time. So I wanted to cover this off before we carry on.
Yeah, good question. So the CIB basically is an arm of WIB, which is the institutional bank, that kind of helps clients, institutional government clients, arrange debt and also be able to send out loans to these companies, and we assess the risk of these loans. And using that, we kind of make judgment. We're very much about the industry knowledge, what the industry trends are, keeping up to date with all the financial news and everything. And so, yes, arranging debt is a huge component of CIB, as well as the relationship building side with all the clients.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. And I guess we'll go into a bit more depth later on around tech and risk, but I think that was one question I always get asked in institutional bank. WIB, what is CIB? What does it stand for? So hopefully that's answered some questions that people had on the call around that one. Well, thanks, Grace, and thanks for having the time to come and spend with us today. So let's kick off with some questions. Now, first and foremost, you all obviously chose Westpac as the place to kickstart your grad careers. Bold and fabulous choice, if I might say so myself. In regards to that decision process for you all, was it an easy call? Was Westpac the only company that you applied for, or did you have multiple offers and you just decided on Westpac? We're under no illusion that obviously a lot of candidates on the call may already have grad offers or, maybe considering multiple organizations. So it'd be interesting to hear from you all, what was the deciding factor in choosing to kickstart your career at Westpac? So Sahan, I might start with you if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. So one thing I found when, as I'm sure everyone is doing right now, before you graduate, you're like, what's out there for me, right? I looked at the Westpac site, and I was like, okay, what's out there? What is this company about? There's a grad connection profile as well. I encourage everyone to check it out, and just you look at the values, you look at what the company stands for, right? And I know people might be thinking, oh, everyone says that, but you actually go and have a look at the page and you can see how Westpac really invests in the community. And it really aims to live out its purpose and its mission. Because it's easy to have values up there and you might not do anything with it, right? But the Westpac Foundation, the Westpac Scholars Trust, the Reinventure Fund, you can see how Westpac really is trying to give back to the community through these initiatives. And yeah, I thought it was it spoke about the company that I was going to work for. And it seemed from the outside, it had a really good culture, really good values, and it seemed like a great place to work. And definitely that is the case.
Amazing. Thanks, Sahan. And Mel, what was it for you that Westpac, what was Westpac? Why was the choice?
Yeah, sure. My story is a little bit different than most. For me, it was quite an obvious choice. I actually had a role with Westpac while I was studying. So I was working, it was a very casual part-time tech support role, and it was so great and I loved it. And I just knew already that I loved the culture so much, and that project ended right before the summer internship program started. So I thought, well, I can stay here if I like. And I applied for that and I got through and I absolutely loved it. And that kind of led straight towards the grad role. I actually didn't even look at other companies for grad roles because I knew I wanted to be with Westpac so badly because I just loved it already. And a lot of people did ask me, you already had a role before the internship. Why didn't you just go for a full-time role. I think the biggest thing for me is that as a non-technical person in the IT industry, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do post-uni. Absolutely zero idea. So I wouldn't even know where to start on job applications. And the technology graduate program offers 4 6-month rotations in different roles. And it gave me an opportunity to do a technical role, a non-technical role, and see what I like. And that was probably the driving factor for me, just absolutely not knowing what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's okay not to know, right? And that's the whole point of rotational programs that everybody does. You get to experience different teams and projects and then actually find your niche, which is a really good benefit. Thanks, Mel. And Grace, for you, tell us about why Westpac was your chosen organisation.
Yeah, thanks, Nat. So basically, I actually did an internship, but not in my current stream. So I was actually in what you would call GTS, and I worked under a project under that department. But during my time there, I actually really enjoyed working there just because people were so lovely. Everyone was really conducive to helping me learn on the job, training me up, and obviously encouraging me to ask questions. And they really actually celebrated the idea that we have an intern and we're ready to kind of train them up. And I thought that was really important. That alongside the fact that it actually offers very flexible working arrangements. I got to work half from home and also in the office. And I think it was a great way to kind of break up the week a little bit, but also, have that flexibility, which I think is super important. But yeah.
Yeah, amazing. No, thanks, Grace. Really good point. And I actually might come straight to you for the next question. A lot of candidates on the call, hopefully after this, are going to be so inspired to apply to one of our programs. They're going to go straight away and hit apply now. I guess one big thing that everyone worries about or panics around is the dreaded recruitment process and the different steps and what to expect. So in thinking back to your recruitment process for grad, what was the most challenging part for you? And what were the most, if you could give a top tip, what would be the top tip to overcome that?
I guess the scariest part for me was knowing that CIB, I had this impression that it was very technical and I needed to be a technical person in order to get into the job. So I think one of the tips I would give is to do your research. And I think that was an important part of my graduate recruitment process, was making sure that I was reading up on industry news, downloading industry reports and actually reading them and understanding what are the trends that are going on in our economy. And I think it's really important, not in just CIB, but also in, all across the industries, is to actually understand what's going on in the industry or the service field that you're going into. And I think that helps you prep for your interview a lot more. And also it gives a good talking point when it comes to your final interview with the senior leaders. So yeah, I think that's super important.
Definitely. Really good point. Thank you. Mel, what was the most challenging part of the recruitment process for you?
Yeah, sure. Mine's a little different to Grace's. Mine's a bit more, as is, like the actual process itself. The most challenging part for me was probably the video interview at the start. This at the time, because I applied before COVID, so talking into a screen was really unnatural to me at the time. Obviously now that's changed, and so it won't be as hard for all the other potential grads. But yeah, no, that was definitely the most challenging part. I think knowing that you only got one take. I'm a very anxious person as well, so it was a big mental hurdle for me to just realize it's okay. They just want to get to know about you. It's okay if you don't know the answer to a question. Just be open, be transparent, be yourself. And that would be my biggest tip. I know it's so cliche, but just be yourself. Because in my experience, obviously I'm not a recruiter, but recruiters want to see who you are and they want to see, a well-rounded version of you. So that would be my biggest tip.
I couldn't agree more. For a video interview, it definitely is probably one of the most challenging parts, because it just feels really unnatural speaking to your computer or your phone and there's no one on the other end. But to your point, you just want to be real. You want the recruiter or the hiring manager to actually get a picture of who you are, not this rehearsed, unauthentic version of who you are. We want to know the real you. And I think if you can do that and put your personality into the video interview, you're halfway there. Thanks, Mel. And Saham, for you, what was the most challenging process bit of the process, for you, and what would be a top tip?
I've got to go with Mel. The video interviews, they scare me. Like, but the best way, like, I found to kind of get over that mental hurdle is just know your stuff, right? And be yourself. So I'm basically reinforcing what Melissa's saying. It's very important to know what's going on, which is what Grace was saying too. Like, know everything about Westpac, the ins and outs. Where is it going? What's happening? What does this company? What's the strategy for the future? Like, where is this company going, and what's being done to support this vision? It's very important. And again, like, be yourself. I remember talking to Nat, and she's just like, we look for authenticity because it shows when you're not being authentic. So the best way, just be yourself. I mean, everyone's human. If you have a blooper, just own it, you know?
Exactly. And yeah, it's definitely a case of be yourself. We don't want to see a rehearsed version. We don't want to see a version of who you think you should be projecting, because that's not the real you, and you should be able to bring your true self to work. We at Westpac are huge believers in that. So if you can't be your true self in a recruitment process, how are you then going to translate that into work? So I think that's really, really good points, guys. Thank you so much. So moving on, I guess in terms of our uncommon minds, in keeping with that theme. So obviously we've had a little bit of an in-depth look into what makes you uncommon, but in thinking about now how your uncommon mind has actually translated into Westpac and is essentially helping you do your job, I'd love to hear a bit from Grace to start, if that's okay, about how you think your uncommon mind has helped you succeed and navigate your grad life so far.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, this idea of viewing the bigger picture is always really important when you work for such a large organization like Westpac. And I think, with my humanities and arts background, writing countless essays on culture and diversity and all of that kind of stuff has made me appreciate that there are many working cogs in society. And I think when you take a step back from your day job and understand where exactly the work that you do fits in with the bigger puzzle, it really helps you appreciate what you've done, and also can kind of quantify, okay, this is the output that I can see. And I think that's really important. And also, with CIB being very industry focused, you kind of do need to view industries as a whole and understand, I guess, the ins and outs of how each industry works. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Grace. And Mel, I might go to you. You mentioning that, you have got that interest in the arts and obviously now working in the tech field. How do you think your uncommon mind has helped you so far?
Yeah, I think having sort of a creative brain has helped me to be a bit more left field with some ideas that I propose to my team. I also have a background. I have a background in tech, but I also have a background in innovation. And that degree was super useful in just problem solving in general and coming up with interesting solutions. So I guess my uncommon mind has helped me sort of think in an abstract way to help get from A to Z. The ideas are not always going to be the best ideas, but my team has said before, I've never thought of that. So that's always a good thing. I'm also a bit of a self-professed nerd, and I love learning, and that has definitely helped me sort of fit into my team a lot more smoothly. So obviously there's so much to learn. I learned about Agile in uni, but there's just so much more to it. And if I hadn't sat down and taken the time to really learn and look at the information and look at the examples and be really out there and start helping teams with little background knowledge, that's really helped me to become valuable to my team. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, no, really good. Thanks. And Sahan, lastly, I know you mentioned before in terms of your uncommon mind, it's that ability to always question things and ask why. I'm guessing, no doubt, that has been really well received in your rotation so far in terms of being able to question why we do things certain ways and how we make things better.
Definitely. So my first rotation was in credit card fraud analytics, and literally my manager was like to me, I want you, right now you're the ideas guy, just whatever you think, just let me know. There's no, it's a good environment in where everyone embraces that. Like, everyone is really welcoming of your ideas, and there's no such thing as, oh, if I say this, am I going to look, silly? If I say this, maybe, they would think of me differently or whatever, right? But everyone appreciates that. And I came up with a few good ideas, which were incorporated into the work we were doing. at the time. So like, it was great. It's a great environment to be a thinker, which is what everyone wants.
So good. No, thank you so much. So shifting slightly now, obviously we've kind of talked around our programs and obviously our Uncommon Minds. I really want to hone in a little bit now in terms of support. I think this is something that a lot of grads and interns out there want to hear about, because, you know, as we all know, the transition from uni to corporate life is a huge one, regardless of everything going on in the world at the moment. You guys obviously began your Westpac careers in February, and you began virtually. So I'd just love for, before we kind of go into the layers of support that are extended to you, I'd just love to hear a little bit about your, I guess, your first impressions of our organisation whilst joining virtually, and how you were feeling in your first week beginning a grad role in a virtual environment. Grace, maybe if I can hand over to you first.
Yeah, sure. I guess, like, in all honesty, I was actually really apprehensive. Just because, you know, signing up to the grad program, you have this grand idea of going into the office, meeting your team, you know, grabbing a coffee, maybe a Friday drink. But I guess starting work from home virtually has made me, I guess, even more proactive in what I do, because I understand that visibility is not as big when you're working from home. So, you know, you're really required to actually reach out, you know, maybe Teams, one of your colleagues, or just have a chat. And I think that that's been super important in terms of starting work virtually. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And Mel, I might come to you, obviously having both sides of the spectrum, having done your internship in person in the office and your other job, and then obviously beginning your grad journey virtually. How was it for you, that pivot to a virtual environment work-wise?
Yeah, I was honestly really scared. I remember thinking, like, I'm going to get no networking opportunities. I'm going to struggle. I'm not going to be able to learn properly without, you know, someone sitting across from you and being able to just ask a question. But teams are very well adjusted now. I slipped into a team who they actually only started a few months before COVID was a thing. So they have working from home, like virtually down pat. You know, we have 2 catch-ups minimum a day, a morning and afternoon. And that was so helpful. And they've been so accessible and supportive. And even on the networking front, like it surprised me how easy it is just to get on a video call with someone instead of grabbing a coffee. Like, it was a lot more intimidating to me than it actually is. So yeah, that's a bit about my experience.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Mel. Yeah, and I think, Sahan, it'd be great to hear from you as well in terms of your first week and what your thoughts were about beginning your career virtually.
You know, I'm going to say that I wasn't really nervous. I say that because, like, you get great correspondence from everyone in the grads programs team. You know what I mean? Like, Nat, we had this app, we got updates, and that, like, everyone is so nice. So I wasn't really nervous because I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in safe hands. You know what I mean? Like, what's the worst that can happen to me but working from home? And yeah, like, it was really great. And what I thought about as well is 2020, right? Yeah. So that year, those years grads, they were at home from March, like, completely. So I guess any teething issues, you'd expect that to be worked out. It was actually really seamless. My team were really great. We had daily catch-ups as well, like Mel. And yeah, like, before I even started, help was only an email away. I emailed Nat, I emailed everybody. Everyone replied. So yeah, there's really nothing to be afraid about. Yeah.
Exactly. And organizations, you know, like ourselves, we set our employees up for success, right? We know obviously last year was the year that was, and, you know, there's a lot of learnings from that. And I think we've come out stronger, and, you know, we've definitely become a lot more flexible and adaptable as an organization. And that's great to be able to offer to incoming employees. So, Han, I might come back to you on the next question, just in regards to those layers of support that I mentioned earlier. Obviously, for, you know, there's a lot of questions sometimes from market around, well, yeah, I'm coming in as an intern or grad, but am I just going to be on my own? Like, what support can I be extended? So, Sahan, I might get your thoughts on that in terms of, I guess, the support you've been extended as a grad.
In terms of support, like, I really can't speak highly enough about the program. I did not expect, I'm like smothered with support. That's how I feel, you know, like, everywhere I look, support. Like, you get, you know, the grad programs team, you get your business champion. So Patsy, she's awesome. She organizes the risk grad program along with others within the risk learning capability division. you have a buddy who I spoke to before this started. So they're prior grads who've gone through this whole process. They know, okay, I'm nervous about transitioning from uni to the workforce. They've gone through everything. That was really helpful. And along with that, you get a mentor as well, like someone experienced within the bank who's, got great experience under their belt, and you can just pick their brain about whatever questions you might have, whether it be, what do I think about the future of my career, soft skills, professional development, whatever. Like, the grad programs team have organized so many learning opportunities for you. You're going to come out, I want to say better person, but we're all great people. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, for sure. And it's great that you've been able to list those off, because, it's something that's extended year on year. It's not something that we just do it's because we help. We love to help. And regardless if you're a grad or an intern, but it's essentially the support that is warranted to get you, set up for success in our organization. So it's great that you touched on that, Sahan. Thank you. So I guess we're all, you're going through your grad programs now, and it's, very likely that there's going to be an element of working from home, i.e. remotely, that will continue for the foreseeable future. Grace, I might ask you on this one, would you be able to share any tips on success for working in a virtual environment going forward, and any tips for the guys on the call who might be a bit apprehensive about beginning a job virtually?
Yeah, definitely. I actually started my new rotation from home, so that was really interesting. And I think the thing that I was apprehensive about was, are the team going to know me? Like, are they going to know who I am? And I think one of the things that really helped me was, before I had even started the new rotation, I actually sent them an email, like a team-wide email. I copied in my team leader and her manager as well. And I think just even a simple hi, my name is this, I just came from this rotation, or this is my background, I'm super interested in this. I think just that helps with the whole like warming up process of getting to know your team. And then obviously following on from that, making sure that you catch up with your manager every so often. I do mine once a week, and, catching up with people in your team. Most teams usually have a weekly team meeting, and I think that's a really good point to actually get to know everyone, know what they do, and kind of how the workflow operates in that team. So I think that
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Mel, I might throw this one to you. Obviously, I guess as, new starters, i.e. grads, I guess, trying to navigate life as a grad, but also in a virtual environment, it was probably quite hard at the beginning to establish a work-life balance. Would you have any tips for, I guess, any of the guys on the call who are a bit apprehensive about that? And can you shed any light on what you found successful so far?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things for me was reminding myself to actually get up and go around for a walk, even if it's just 5 minutes, or upstairs, around the kitchen, wherever. I think it's so important, because when you're in the office, you're typically on your feet a lot more than you are at home, and it can be so easy to just get stuck into the void of work. So yeah, I would say keep moving. Regular catch-ups with your team is a great tool as well. I think for work-life balance, something that I do, actually, before I get onto that, there is something that the business does, which they send through a meeting invite for lunchtime every day. So it's 12 to 1 p.m. and they block out sort of like a meeting free zone. I found that to be so useful, because sometimes you just have back-to-back meetings all day, but you just know that there's that 1 hour break in between where you get to just relax, eat your lunch, and be meeting free. So that's great as well. If I would definitely suggest doing that in your own calendar. And at the end of every day, I do actually turn all my devices off. I turn my mobile phone off and I turn my laptop off. And I know as a grad, it can be scary, because you might think, oh, well, I'm working from home, I need to prove myself, I need to be online 24/7. It's just not true. You have to sort of put yourself in the perspective of as if you were in the office, and think, when you leave the office, that's the end of the day. So when the end of the day comes, and I'm not saying finish early or don't get your work done, but once it's done, turn everything off and have that end of day. I think it's super important.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think, even for guys on the call who might be, doing their last year or second last year uni, and again, they're doing it from home. So again, that, the work-life balance, oh, I'm just going to continue working for a few hours because. It's like, no, we still need to maintain that work-life balance. I always have this mindset of work will still be there tomorrow. I don't need to work till all hours today because it will still be there tomorrow. So it's something that I definitely try and live by as well. So thanks, Mel. I know we are nearing time, and I just want to make sure that we leave time to answer everyone's questions on the call. So just a few more, I promise. One thing that I always get asked about, and I'm sure you guys have as well, is our culture. It seems to follow us around, the Westpac culture. And I think a lot of people hear about it and they're curious about it, but until you're actually in and working, it's something that you don't really understand. So Sahan, I might ask you, how have you found the Westpac culture? What does it mean to you, and how have you experienced it? Oh, I think you're connecting to audio.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Sorry about that. My headphones literally ran out of battery. I'm
Oh, good. We got you back. We got you back.
Basically, the culture is the one thing, like, well, not the one thing, but like, it really is the best thing about Westpac. One of the best things, but it's so good. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, everyone is themselves. Everyone's genuine. You can be comfortable in being yourself. You know what I mean? I'm not nervous to laugh, as I've been hysterically doing on this call. I make jokes with everybody I've met. You know, if I want to reach out to other divisions to learn more about what they're doing, everyone is so welcoming, and they always give you time. You know, there's nothing to be afraid about. You can be your whole self and your genuine self, which I think is, you know, a great thing about an organization, especially when you want to go there, you want to do well, you want to feel comfortable, and I feel very comfortable, like maybe too comfortable.
Can never be too comfortable. We want that. And, you know, echoing the points before, we want people to bring their true selves to work. We want you to laugh hysterically, because that's who you are. And that's what I would, as a hiring manager, that's what I'm looking for in grads and interns. I want that personality. I want the real you to shine through, because that's who I want to bring into our organization. And that's what I want to shape the future of our organization. So thank you for being you, Sahan. That is all we want. So one last question before I think then we'll head to questions from the floor is our values. So again, to someone's point, I think it was you, Sahan, at the beginning, you know, every organization has them and they're listed on a website, and it's sometimes just a tick box. But our values were updated last year when the bank went through a huge rebrand, and we now follow the acronym HELPS. So, you know, the 5 values pertaining to the HELPS acronym is definitely, I guess, 5 key pillars as to how we at Westpac identify ourselves and what we live by, almost our mantra, if you like. I'm really curious to hear from all of you, which of our values resonates with you most and why? So Mel, maybe if I come to you first.
Yeah, for sure. So the P in HELPS stands for performing. And I think that resonated with me most as a grad, because I think coming into it, you might have like a little expectation that like your team or someone is going to hold your hand the whole way through, which, while your team is going to be absolutely supportive whenever you need it, that's just not how it goes. And that's a good thing. I feel like that value sort of like integrating with my work has taught me to take accountability for my own decisions and for my own work, and to be a bit more independent. And I think one of the biggest things was to not ask for approval about every single piece of work that I was doing. You know, you are allowed to have your own opinions and ideas, and you don't always have to get approval from other people. Obviously, getting ideas from other people is great, and getting feedback is great. But yeah, I think being that little bit of independence was what resonated with me.
Yeah, awesome. I echo all of that. Thanks, Mel. And Grace, for you, which of the values resonates with you most?
I was actually going to say performing as well with Melissa, mainly because I'm someone who really likes to build, assign like metrics around how I can do well in a particular team. And I think establishing those SMART goals that you kind of learn throughout uni, SMART, you know, being the measurable component, actionable, realistic, and time frame really helps, put a structure in terms of what I really want to achieve out of the grad program. Because the grad program is pretty much a try before you buy. You know, you get to rotate in different teams, figure out whether or not you like a team, or if you want to roll off into that particular team. And I think having those goals set up early on in your grad program really helps you assign whether or not you're performing to your ability in that particular rotation. And I think having that mindset is really helpful in any role at Westpac.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Grace. And finally, Sahan, which value for you resonates with you most?
So for me, I'm going to be different and say our leading change. So I love how the bank is pretty much focused on making things better and better. It's like it's the focus of the bank now. We want to make things better. How can we make it better? Within risk, there's a strategy, a 3-year strategy on how to improve the risk frameworks and risk capability. The values are being actioned. It's not just a value which nothing happens with, which, there's actually a lot of immense work being done in the background, which goes towards achieving these values. And again, with the overarching purpose of helping people succeed, which is basically what made me apply to Westpac.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. And I might just throw my 2 cents in, because why not? My favorite value is the H, the help. So for me, that is it just sings Westpac. That is who we are as an organization. It's what we do. It's why we come to work every day, to help people. And our overarching vision is to help Australians succeed. So I think that for me is just, it gets me out of bed every day. It's my motivation. And, I think that's just a great, asset to Westpac, is that helping is just literally at the forefront of what we do, regardless of your role, your business area, your division. Helping is at the forefront of everyone's minds. So I think that is a nice place to end. Guys, thank you so much so far. Great insights, and I hope it's been helpful to everyone on the call. But I might now hand back to Alex and we can kick off with some questions.
Absolutely. And sorry, I've been typing away hard and fast at the chat and I've been trying to get to everyone's questions. There have been a lot, so thank you all very much for that. I think the first one that has been voted to the very top of the list in the Q&A, I'm going to combine the first 2 because I think they're more relevant for Nat. So Alec was hoping to know how many applicants on average there are per intake. And Corey, and I apologise if I've pronounced your name incorrectly, what are the key characteristics and traits that recruiters look for in potential candidates? So if I can put those 2 together and ask Nat to answer that, please.
Yeah, nice. And thank you to both people on the call for the questions. We get asked this a lot about how many applications we get. And I'll be honest with you all, it's in the thousands. I can't give away too much, but of course, we're a great program in my opinion. But, to speak to our grads and our interns, you hear it from themselves. You see everyone's profiles on the website, testimonials. They love working for us. I don't have to sell it. They do it for me. So of course we do get many applications year on year. It is a competitive program. Having said that, and it ties in nicely then to the second question around what do we look for, as recruiters and hiring managers, what key traits? And again, I can't reiterate enough. It's the authenticity. It's you as a person. We look for well-rounded individuals. You'll hear this a lot, well-rounded. Essentially, we want someone to have a bit of everything. Yeah, uni marks are important. Yeah, experience to an extent is important, but what are you bringing to the organization yourself? Are you a good communicator? Can you work in a team? Can you think outside the box? Can you be proactive in your thinking? Can you contribute key ideas? Are you, not afraid to speak up? It's these soft skills that we call them, these transferable skills, that for me are really, really important to look for within a hiring process. And for me, if I look at all of my grads and interns year on year, as we talked about before, couldn't even tell you how many different degree backgrounds or different work experiences or different uni backgrounds. But one thing in common is that they are all themselves. They are all genuine. They are all ready to work, motivated, and good communicators. So I hope that answers the question, but essentially it's who you are, and you need to be putting your best foot forward in the application to show us that, because if you can do that, you're in with a great chance.
That's some great advice. Thanks so much, Nat. And the next question, it has actually come before the session from William. Pretty good question. How do you see the bank maintaining sustainable growth in a sustainable manner? And I thought I might ask Grace that question because I think that might be quite relevant to what you've been working on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a great question and a great starting point in terms of the mindset that you need to have as a grad, is that a lot of banks are moving towards a carbon neutral future and a net zero economy. And I think that's been a huge focus at Westpac, particularly in WIB and CIB, is that we're funding projects that have a renewable outcome and can sort of deliver that renewable value to its shareholders. And I think I did a rotation in sustainable finance, which actually works very closely with the debt capital markets team. And basically we packaged together green bonds that allow companies to hit their KPI targets in terms of sustainable goals, whether it be reducing carbon emissions or maybe reducing their water usage. And all of those, I guess, transfer into, you know, what Westpac sees as a great company and where we're moving towards in the future. And there's a huge ESG focus in the bank. There are new teams that kind of are specific in terms of guiding Westpac's strategy in terms of lending money to companies who have a huge ESG focus in their company profile. So yeah, really great question.
I also have noticed on the Grad Connection profile for Westpac, there is a section on sustainability. So suggest that students probably could have a look at that as well to get a little bit more in-depth information from there as well. So the next question for all of our grads, and I might start with Mel, is could you comment on the learning curve that you've experienced as entering as a graduate? And alongside of that, how has Westpac aided your transition from study to work? I think they work quite well together, those two questions. So
yeah,
Mel.
for sure. I think my learning curve was bigger than I thought it would be, because I sort of entered a role. I'm only in my first rotation, but I did enter a role that I thought I learned about at uni. And there's just so much more to it than I ever expected. So I definitely have taken up the role of just being a sponge and learning everything that comes to you. There's just so much to learn, almost too much at times. And it can get overwhelming, but I've definitely learned so much, and I just know that any rotation I go into now, I'll have that knowledge behind me, and it just makes you sort of more valuable to your next team. So I definitely spend a lot of time on Westpac's learning platforms and learning about my team and their resources. And yeah, sorry, what was the second part of the question? I've lost it.
How did Westpac aid your transition from study to work?
Yeah, sure. Again, everyone at Westpac is so supportive. My people leader is a very busy man, but he always says to me at all of our catch-ups, he says, if you need anything, let me know, I'm here. Is there anything that I can do for you? So they're really supportive in the way that they actually provide training and provide learning and provide everything that you could ever want. So I guess coming from uni, I graduated 2 years ago, so I was a bit before, I think, most of the other grads. So it was definitely a bit of a shock learning so much again, but it is quite similar where you're just a sponge and you learn everything, and they're really supportive, most people that you come across.
Awesome, thank you. I'm trying to multitask and answer questions as you're answering as well. I was going to ask Sahan, but I actually think I might put a little slant on the question for Sahan. What was the most surprising or unexpected thing that you wished you knew before becoming a graduate?
Okay, just to clarify, do I have to answer the learning curve question as well?
If it's very different to Mel's, then yes, absolutely.
No, not really. Sponge mentality is the best mentality. Okay, sorry, can you repeat the question one time just so I'm sure I answer the right one?
Of course I can. So what was the most surprising or unexpected thing that you wished you knew before you became a graduate?
Right, well, what I wished I knew before I became a grad is that I don't need to know everything. Because I was very concerned about, okay, I don't know how to use this system. You know, when I go in, I won't know what I'm doing. But the great thing is no one has unrealistic expectations of you when you go in. Everyone is very accommodating. Like my people leaders have been amazing. They're just like, you know, we know like it's going to take time for you to learn these things, but again, that's an opportunity to really prove yourself. I take it as like, okay, this is a challenge. I'm going to try and learn this to the best way I can, not just quickly. You want to really learn it well. And then that's a solid foundation to have for you to do really great things across the rest of your rotation. You need building blocks, but you don't have to know everything. That's the bottom line.
Awesome. That's really great advice. And the next question that I'm going to ask, just so we're making it a bit fair, I'll go back to Grace. Obviously, all three of you have been successful in the application process. Do you have any helpful tips or tricks from your experience that you think might help the grads on the call or the students on the call in their application process?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. And I think we might have covered it a little bit before, but this idea of talking to a camera, especially in the virtual environment that we're in right now, is actually quite a weird and foreign concept if you haven't done it before. And I think the biggest tip would be to kind of practice in front of the mirror. I remember when I was prepping for my interview, I would prep in front of the mirror, and I would do like preparation in front of a webcam as well and record myself and kind of rewatch it. I know it's a little bit like cringe to rewatch yourself, but I think you realize that a lot of the times when you're speaking to a camera, sometimes your body language gets lost. And it might not be obvious to you, but it could be very obvious to the person viewing on the other end. So I think doing that bit of preparation really helps guide you in terms of, okay, perhaps I need to use my hands a little bit more. I need to, take pauses in my answers, and having that foundation really helps in terms of your video interview and also the final stage assessment center as well.
That's great. Thanks, Grace. We are running a little bit low on time. I think we've got through quite a lot of questions there. So I might actually hand back to Nat. And I think there was an additional question that you were hoping to ask, and I'll let you finish off there.
Thanks, Alex. I know I wish I could be here all night answering questions, but unfortunately we can't. I will just say the Grad Connection profile that we have is really built out with lots of new and updated information. So if there is anything that you haven't heard today or you're not sure, please head there, and everything that you need will be there, I promise. So back to my lovely grads. I just wanted to, well, first of all, end and say thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you're all super busy and it's great to have had you guys for an hour. I just would love to now almost end in terms of your grad experience to date. To sum up, if you could sum up your grad experience in, say, no more than 3 words, what would they be and why? Bit of a curveball. I know we didn't prep on any of these ones, but let's go for it. Mel, tell me about you. 3 words or less, your grad experience.
Oh, that's a tough question. I would say supported. I would say innovative, and I would probably say cross-functional.
Nice. Thanks, Mel. Grace, 3 words to describe your grad experience to date.
I would say insightful, fun, and relationship driven.
Nice. Great. And Sahan, I can see you frantically thinking in the background. Tell me in 3 words or less your grad experience to date.
Can I say amazing for all 3? No, I'm joking. I'm going to say, it's rewarding, challenging, and insightful.
Yeah, awesome, amazing. And I really hope that, the grads and interns and even students on the call today can really take some of your advice away. If I think about what would I have wanted if I was joining an organization as a grad or an intern, it would have been coming to something like this and listening to advice firsthand from people who'd been in my shoes and had been through the process that I was going to go through. So I know I've loved speaking to you guys today, and I'm sure everyone on the call has as well. I know we've got a few minutes, but essentially I just want to let you all know in terms of our recruitment process, the application process. Again, I'm going to refer you all to our Grad Connection employer profile. There is a section there on the application process. I've split it out nicely for everyone. It's in nice sections accompanied by a video to actually break down the process and talk you through each step in detail. Essentially, you will face 4 steps. Now, whether you're applying for grad or intern, it's the same. You will complete an online application form. You would then move through to online assessments, Successful candidates would then move through to the dreaded video interview. And then successful candidates would be invited to the final stage, which would be a virtual assessment centre experience. So we have made the decision to go virtual with our assessment centres as we did last year in light of what is happening in the world. And essentially that assessment centre experience will be conducted online, and that will comprise of several different tasks. And again, you can head to the Grad Connection profile to find out more. And as I say, we do have a good FAQ document on there for any questions, but please feel free, if there's anything that we haven't covered today, you can email us. If you head to actually the Westpac Grad website, the email is listed on there, so you can all do that, and please send any questions our way. But Alex, I might hand back to you to close things out. But from me and the grads, thanks everyone. I know it's been late on a Wednesday, and as I say, I'm sure people wanted to be logging off and going off to do some fun extracurricular things. But from me and the grads, thank you so much. I encourage every single one of you to head to the profile to find out more. I'm really looking forward to see some of you hopefully submit applications. Programs close on the 6th of August for intern and the 13th of August for grad. So thanks everyone. Thanks for listening. It's been great to spend time with you all. And Alex, I'll hand back to you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Nat. And thanks to Mel, Sahan and Grace. You've really been excellent today. I know it is tough to have to answer some really curly questions, but you've done an excellent job. We'd love to hear any feedback from any of the students on the call. So please do feel free to email anything through. And last but not least, this will be available, the recording will be available to students. There should be something sent out in the next day or so. So look out for that and feel free to share that with all of your friends and fellow students. And otherwise, all the very best of luck in your applications. Make sure you jump on GC and see what opportunities are out there, and definitely apply for Westpac. They're one of my faves. So thanks very much, everyone, and have a great evening.